The 2020 race is kicking into full gear, and joining me now, we have Democratic candidate for president Tom Steyer. Thank you so much for joining us.
Orko, it's great to be with you.
Yeah, and first I just want to ask you, recently in recent polls, you've been climbing, especially here in Nevada, 8%, one recent poll shows. Why do you think there's that surge going on right now?
I think I have a different message from everybody else. Look, I'm an outsider in politics who's been fighting corporations with other American citizens for 10 years. I believe our government's broken, and we're going to have to take it back. I'm the person who said, climate's my #1 priority, but I'll do it from the standpoint of environmental justice, and will create millions of good-paying union jobs as we rebuild America. And I'm the person who's saying, we have to beat Trump. We know he's running on the economy. I built a business over 30 years. I can get on the debate stage and show he's a fake. He was a fake businessman. He's a failure as a businessman. He's been a terrible steward of the American economy for the American people. We're going to have to go after him on the economy. And I just have a different experience and expertise from anybody else on that stage when it comes to explaining growth, prosperity, job creation, and beating Trump.
So obviously you talk about the economy. That's one of your big campaign points. What do you say to the people that say, hey, the numbers show unemployment is dropping, the economy is fine? How do you convince them that actually you need to fix it and you have a plan to do that?
You know, it's true that unemployment is low. It's also true you can't live on those jobs. I mean, it's true that there's been growth. It's also true that all the increased income has gone to the richest Americans and the biggest corporations for 40 years. Look, you can show some numbers that would make it look like things were good, but Americans know it's not true. This has been a dramatically unfair, unjust, and unsuccessful economy for the American people for literally 40 years. We've got to stop this radical right-wing Republican experiment about giving all the money to the rich people and hoping that it will trickle down to the rest of us. It's not true.
So for you, in terms of the economy, in your first 100 days, if you were to be elected, what are some of the key points that you would push through?
Well, I'd stop Mr. Trump's failed trade war, for starters. But I think, look, I'm talking about several different things, attacking it in several different ways. One is I'd have to get Congress to go along. We need to roll back all of the Republican tax breaks for the richest people and the biggest corporations. I'm for a wealth tax. We've redistributed money in this country to the richest people from everybody else. I'm for a wealth tax. I would get rid of the loopholes for investors and use that to give 95% of Americans a 10% tax cut. That we could do that if we just got rid of the investment loopholes. We could cut taxes by 10% for 95% of Americans. Look, I would treat this differently. I think the whole idea about what prosperity is has got to go back to the idea of Americans succeeding individually. That means I'd be investing in Americans. I'd be investing in education all along the way. I don't think of education as a cost. I think of education as an investment in Americans and the future of America. I view this completely differently. I believe Mr. Trump doesn't understand anything about creating long-term prosperity and success for the American people. He doesn't agree about the idea of sharing the money broadly throughout society. He's a failure.
You mentioned, the American people in that room here at the Culinary Union. The first question out of the box was talking about health care. A lot of people are, afraid by this Medicare for All proposal. That's not something that you support. What's your plan to tackle health care?
Let's start with 2 quick points, Orko. One, affordable health care is a right for every single American in the 21st century. We are dramatically overpaying for it, and we need to get the cost way down for everybody because, as I said, these corporations have bought the government, and that definitely includes the drug companies, the insurance companies, and the private hospitals. So my plan is build on the Affordable Care Act, put out a public option to join Medicare for everybody, so everybody has a right to health care, affordable health care in the United States, and go after costs, use the government to go after costs in the healthcare system really aggressively because they're ripping us off. And the government should be standing up for the American people, and they're not. They're standing up for the corporations against the American people. That's got to end.
And I know that you've been on the debate stage a few times now. Recently in this debate, there was, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, kind of this tense moment after the debate ended between Senator Warren and Senator Sanders. You were right there. What exactly happened in that moment? What did you see and hear?
Look, I haven't really talked about it, but as you know, Orko, I think somebody came out with some kind of transcript of what they were saying back to one another. As far as I was concerned, all I was trying to do at that moment was say good night and nice to see you to two senators who I know and who I was on the debate stage with for a couple of hours. As far as I was concerned, what they had to say privately between each other was for them to discuss. And you know, I was really just a bystander who's trying to do something completely different.
And then lastly, you obviously spoke today to the Culinary Union. At the end there, getting visibly emotional, talking about that this is a very important election and that these are not just campaign promises for you. Can you speak to, you know, what kind of took you, you know, down that moment there, started tearing up a little bit?
I'm serious about this. I mean, they were asking me, in effect, how far are you willing to go on this? And my basic answer is, really? How far am I willing to go to save America and get us to be the country I want to be and have America save the world? There's no limit to how far I'll go. That's what I was really saying to them, is like, they were asking me if I'd ever back down, and the answer is no.
Mr. Steyer, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Of course, nice to meet you.
Thank you. And we will continue to interview the 2020 candidates as the Nevada caucus approaches, and that's just over 1 month away on February 22nd. In Las Vegas, I'm Orko Manna.